The freak this week is 46 silver, and it's another Freak Out Friday. We are there, so let's talk about what happened and why this gathering has now become very dangerous. Yeah, we're in the middle of a skyrocketing rally where prices are going above $1 at a time. It looks like we've been getting moves like this every day so far. Silver was even higher today at over 3%. It was almost exactly 47 cents away. So cool. Before it went down a bit today, and these are the numbers now. Between these metals, everything is green today. Gold is going up a little, $15.90 to $3,766.10. The gold price has been going through a crazy ride, but things are starting to level off here with gold. However, silver has a lot more room. Yes, it does. It is up more than 2% or 2.06% or 93 cents to 46.16. Right now, just before the markets closed, there is some pushback today, so it has pushed back a bit. I'm going to talk about that after the video is over. We can still be happy that the bid price is above 40 stocks though. Palladium and platinum have also done pretty well. Platinum is actually up almost $50 today. This morning I talked about platinum, and I'll put up a movie at the end of this page. That video was missed by most of you. Don't miss it, because I think we should pay attention to silver right now, since it's getting close to $1,600 a day. It was about $8 away from me $600. Right now it's at $1,982, which is a 3.22% change for platinum. Palladium is also up almost 2% today. The difference between gold and silver is now only 81.76. That's getting close to the past couple of years' rate of about 80 to 1. But even so, I think it should still narrow much more, especially since the rise we're seeing now is such an explosive one. It was last week or a few days ago. It's tough to tell the time because things are happening so fast. For one day, there was a pretty big drop, but as I said, it quickly came back up. I still think we might see a few more of those, but they will only be small bumps in the general bull run for silver. Folks, I think it's here, and I think it will keep going up from here. For me to say that is pretty strange, but then again, we live in strange times. This is going to be a link to a story from Kitco that talks a bit about what came out today with some of these numbers. Before I go, I want to tell you of Summit Metals, who sponsors this channel. This company has been very helpful to the channel, and many of you have also become friends with them because of how great their customer service is. Summit Metals can help you get richer. Now, we saw that gold prices reached these important inflation reports that have been coming out after gold prices had already gone up a bit. The U.S. Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index release just now rose 0.3% month over month, following a 0.2% rise in July. It was up 0.2%, which was also right in line with forecasts and less than the 0.3% rise seen in each of the previous 2 months. The overall PCE inflation rate rose 2.7% over the past year, which is about the same as expected and the highest rate in 6 months. It was 2.6% in July. Core PCE inflation was 2.9%, which was also in line with what the market thought it would be. Both of these numbers are above the Federal Reserve's target of 2%, but they are in line with what the Federal Reserve says, which is important to know because it will affect many things the Federal Reserve does. The dollar index has gone down 0.35% to 98.15, but this hasn't changed the overall market's view on where the Federal Reserve will go at its next 2 meetings. This means that you should expect another rate cut, which is 89.8% likely to happen. When I checked that number earlier in the day, it had just changed. That is, this makes it more likely that rates will go down in both October and December. The number of people who think this is going to happen also goes up a little to 66% compared to just 31.3% who think the Federal Reserve will hold off on that meeting. In other words, it's more likely that we'll see 2 more rate cuts. So it looks more likely that those cuts will happen to get the economy moving again. And it's clear that these policies of ease are having an impact on the valuable metal markets. Yes, they are. In fact, silver is going up again right now. It's up more than 2% today, or 2.12% in late trade to $46.19. Silver prices have gone down since the high number we saw earlier in the day. That price was so high that it pushed silver up to its current high of $46.68. As we already said, the dollar index is also going up, but it has reached a 4-week high in response to a positive U.S. GDP report that was better than what the market expected. That was also something we talked about. There are many parts to this system. Even though the GDP numbers are good, these other signs are not keeping up, which is having an effect. New U.S. data, like the GDP report, is making traders rethink the Federal Reserve's plans to cut interest rates. Now, I just went over some of those, and we'll see what's going on with them. And the other things we're looking into, like how the strong and constant buying of gold by the U.S. Central Bank keeps the price of gold high, which helps silver here. It's good to see that silver is finally doing better than gold. It's about time. A lot of us believe that silver should have moved by now. It's important to remember that silver's all-time high was $50 an ounce, which is still a long way off at $46 an ounce. In the big picture, though, $46 silver is only $4 short of $50. I still think there's a lot more that could happen that would cause the metal to reach that price. It's really interesting. Now, David Morrison, a senior market watcher at Trade Nation, said that the rise in precious metals could be slowed by good economic news this week and the fact that the Federal Reserve is in a tough spot. President Trump is likely to keep his personal attacks on the chair, Powell, and other colleagues as the next two monetary policy meetings near. The Fed is in a very tough spot. He believes the Federal Reserve might decide to show how independent it is by only making one more rate cut this year. With the U.S. economy being so strong, this would be an easy choice for them to make. That's why some of the numbers for the next meeting on December 10th aren't the same. By almost 2 to 1, though, certainly more than 2 to 1, most people think it will be another rate cut. That seems like a pretty basic point of view, and it's being brushed off here. What are we going to watch next week? It will be next week before we can share some important numbers that will help us show what's to come. At the $46.50 point, I don't go into some of the most basic technical reasons why this is going to be hard to beat. On Monday, we'll get U.S. home sales and pending home sales. On Tuesday, we'll get U.S. job openings and then the U.S. public confidence rate. Some people think that the U.S. ADP non-farm payrolls report is a more true indicator than the BLS report. On Wednesday, we'll also see the ISM manufacturing PMI. The U.S. weekly jobless claims numbers will come out on Thursday. Then on Friday, we'll get ISM services PMI and U.S. non-farm payrolls. These things will affect what the Federal Reserve does. A strong dollar and jobs are their jobs, and they have to keep the jobs going. In that case, that's their job. We'll see how that goes. But don't forget that the dollar is lost value. Prices are still going up, and there are good reasons for some people to say we shouldn't cut rates until we get them back to 2%. Of course, it's now higher than that, and that's one of the things, along with geopolitics, that has caused the price of silver to rise. In fact, it was said that Pete Hegseth, who is in charge of the Department of War, has asked all of his admirals and generals to get back together. Some people think that call could mean something big is about to happen, but the White House says it's not that important. And geopolitics are already hot. The war in Ukraine is still going on, and there are no signs that it will end or that any kind of deal or negotiation will happen. This is something Trump has talked about, and some of it has been more hostile, which could cause a bigger fight. The situation in Gaza is still the same, even though it was said that a deal might be possible out there. We'll see how that goes. There are still worries in other parts of the world as well. Taiwan isn't talked about much these days, but could that still be a mitigating factor? I'm not sure. And China has still been pretty brave in that area. We'll see how that goes. By the way, 4650 is a strong number that shows where some of the next support will be around that area. I'm not sure what's different now that it's moved there. I think that's part of the reason why the price dropped so much from 46.68 to now. Some people are selling and the volume has gone down. However, I think that the trade and volume during the day have caused some people to take profits, which is why it was kind of siphoned off a bit. That is something to keep an eye on. That is, the way from here to $47 and then to $48 might not be easy. We'll see. Who knows? It's possible for it to go right through again. It all depends on how people who are buying gold banks feel and what they're doing. But as we move forward, we should expect some pushback here. That's why I'm not ready to say, oh, hey, all bets are off for $50 an ounce. We'll see. Which is why I stay cautiously hopeful. It's cool that silver is moving into places we haven't seen it in 14 years. We need to get above 50 in 14 years for it to be higher than that. Also, that would take us back to 1980. And by the way, folks, silver still has a long way to go when inflation is taken into account. Remember, though, that it's always nice to see good changes that validate us stackers. But remember that price isn't the only reason to hold on to silver. The Constitution's Article 1, Section 10, and the Bible both say that we should learn from past, so we need silver to prove that we should hold on to it. That's right. That's all there is to it. Tell me what you think about the market right now. I hope this movie was interesting, helpful, and educational for you. Thank you so much for watching, and please rate, share, review, and subscribe.